Hello everyone and welcome on board this live safari. We are coming to you live from the Sabi Sands in South Africa, and as you can see, we've got lucky with a clan of hyena that are making their way around and about behind us, sniffing about. My name is Scott. I'm teamed up with Senzo on camera, and I'm on an abnormal vehicle today due to the fact that all three of our other vehicles have decided to go on strike. So we've just kitted this vehicle out yesterday evening and looking forward to a morning out on safari. It's just going to be myself in the Sabi Sands, but you'll be glad to know that Jamie and Brent will be joining us from the Maasai Mara in Kenya. Now, it's interesting to see what these hyena are up to. Look at that one's eye. The one on the right eye definitely has a major problem. And isn't that interesting? I don't recognize this hyena. I'm not sure if any of you guys do. And what a cool shot that is. I wonder what it is they've got sense of here. We are quite close to our kind of northwestern boundary and the entrance gate into the reserve. So maybe they can hear some people moving about there, or maybe they can hear something further off in the distance. And I love finding these guys first thing in the morning. I always wonder what their night was like, because they do move huge distances at night searching for snacks. It doesn't look like these guys did get lucky though. There's no telltale signs of any blood on their face, so possibly an unsuccessful night out. I was hoping on finding some tracks of the Nkhuhuma pride of lion in the area where we stumbled upon these hyenas. So when I first saw them, I thought, well, maybe we would be lucky and that these hyena would be trailing the lions with the knowledge that they could well make a kill, and the hyena could then try and steal some of the scraps. So there was 4 in total. Now that's the third one now that's joined. And we've got a feeling that they are kind of denning to the north of us. That's why we haven't found a den site on our property for the last few months. There's just a strong likelihood that they're not using any of their old dens on Djuma. But looking forward to that changing at some point in time, because hyena dens are such good quality, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are missing spending time with the regular Djuma clan, of which I'm told you guys started really getting to know the individuals, and Jamie, one of the other presenters who you'll meet shortly in the Mara, also took it upon herself to get to know all the different hyena. Very good. Now we're going to continue on. That is our northern boundary that they've just crossed over. So we're going to continue checking our western boundary for any sign of the Nkhuhuma pride of lion, and hopefully we'll get lucky with them. If not them, Tundi and her cubba, Leopardess, are on the menu. For now though, you guys are heading up to the Mara.
Look at that. Isn't that an absolutely magnificent Maasai Mara dawn? We're coming to you live from the Mara Triangle. It is a gorgeous but quite, excuse me, cold morning. My name is Brent Smith. I have Chi on camera, and we're wondering what is await here in the Mara today. Now, as I said, this is 100% live, and if you want to ask us questions, hashtag on Twitter or on any other feed that you are watching on. We would love to hear from you. We do appreciate all your questions, so keep them coming. Now, my plan is I'm going to head down towards the Mara River, the main crossings. Let's go see if we can find the old boy Scar, big male lion, and we'll see what else is happening around there. You never know what's going to happen next on the live safari. But for a fact, we're going to go say good morning to Jenny with some pachyderms.
Good morning. How spectacular is the sunrise? And first off, an apology. Apparently, Brent's sound isn't up to scratch this morning, so we do apologize for that. I'm sure he'll sort it out very shortly. I'm going to sit quietly for just a few seconds and let you take in the scene in front of us, because it is breathtaking. Birds are chirping. Isn't that marvelous? What a way to start our morning. Elephant Bull, very pretty sunrise, or an attempt at a sunrise through the clouds. Good morning, my name is Jamie, and this morning Adrian is on camera with me. Kristen, you say that this is magnificent. It is magnificent, isn't it? It is absolutely... Let me think. How many different adjectives can we come up to describe this? Come up with to describe, is what I'm trying to say, this sunrise. Complete with dawn chorus and all. And wouldn't you know it, our camera isn't even ticking, Adrian. It's not. My goodness. That must be a good sign. All the way through the TV series, we were struggling to actually demonstrate the sounds of the Mara because the camera was going tick, 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 tick. We still don't know why. I'm just letting it sink in for a bit. The sky looks like it's on fire. Actually, the sky, you know what it looks like? It looks like a sort of marbled painting. I don't quite know how to describe what I mean, but it doesn't really look real. Beautiful. So the plan this morning, I can see the buffalo herd from yesterday. At the end of the sunset safari, we found a brand new buffalo calf. Mum still hadn't managed to deliver the placenta yet, so we're going to go and see if we can check up on that little baby. We're going to have to try and find it in the long grass, but they're all moving down towards the road, so I'm going to cut short our sunrise. And let's go and have a look at these buffalo. They're just up ahead. And maybe we can find our new mum and new baby. Let's go. They're just here. The umbilical cord was still dangling out of mum. It really was a tiny new one. It was still stumbly, it was dry, so we obviously missed. You know what was haunting me last night when I went home was the fact that we must have missed that birth when we came down in the afternoon. She must have been there giving birth, or she'd just given birth. That was what kept me awake last night. That and Brent's alarm that went off at 2:15 in the morning. He forgot to switch off one of his many. 2:30. Sorry, it was 2:30. Let's be fair. It was 2:30. It was 2:30 in the morning. You can imagine what the reaction to that was. Although it was quite nice when we were awake and then realized it was another, just under 3 hours till we had to be awake. We didn't have to rush up at 2. Morning, Flows. Where are you hiding the baby now? Oh, we're not even going to see it in this grass. But let's try. Oh, holes. Okay, so spot the baby buffalo, everyone. Where might you be? Lots of mooing. Let's see if we can find the baby moo. I wouldn't describe it as mooing, actually. It's more of a lowing. Me and my bright ideas. I'm not even going to see this baby in this grass. You can barely see the buffalo. They look like they're swimming through a sea of grass. I'm looking frantically. Oh, there's a playful little one on the left, but I don't think it's our tiny baby. I just saw its back pop up as it was galloping about. It's a bit further to the left. It's the group a bit further to the left. There we go, somewhere in there. There we go. That's the one that was trailing behind. Oh dear, I don't know if we're going to spot the baby flow in this. And buffalo calves, of course, up and moving as soon as possible, just like any animal that is under threat from predators out here. Is that it there? Dexter, no, that's not. That's an adult buffalo lying down. Never mind. Dexter says, what a lot of bison there are here. It's a big herd of buffalo. They are, of course, essentially the African equivalent of a bison, and they are distantly related to bison, but they are known as the Cape buffalo. So that is the species that we're looking at the moment. They are roughly the same size as a bison and possibly even more cantankerous. But to give you, to give you a sort of a fair comparison for those new viewers, or perhaps those who've never been on safari, never had the opportunity to see a buffalo, they're pretty much the same size. So it gives you a perspective as to just how big they are. A big male buffalo can reach up to around about 900 kilograms. So that's well over, close to 2,000 pounds. Oh, look at that one having a scratch on the tree. You're having the best time. It's nice to hear that the buffalo have also started returning to Djuma as well. I know that Tristan had a herd yesterday. Shomeen, yes, the buffalo can eat the dry grass, and it's actually not as dry as it looks. So the reproductive part of the plants, the reproductive part of the grass looks quite dry, and it takes on quite a reddy brown color. But if we were to closely examine the base of this grass, you'd find that it's actually bright green. I'll show you in a little bit once we've finished searching for this baby buffalo, but it's actually green at the base of it, at the growth points, near the sort of the bottom. If we have a look here, maybe let's look, Adrian, maybe let's even look right next to us, because I think it might be a bit clearer. If we have a look here, you can see it's very lush, it's very green. It's also exceptional quality grass. Red grass has a very high nutrient value. It's one of the things that defines the ecosystem of the Mara, is the presence of what is here termed red oat grass. It is very, very good quality, and yes, the buffalo can make the best of it, make the most of it. They are, of course, also ruminants, like cows, so they re-chew their food, and it helps them to break down and get all of the nutrients out of it. I can't find this baby buffalo. It's hidden in this, talking about the grass. It's hidden in the grass. I can't see it anywhere. Is that, oh wait, is that, no, that's just another adult buffalo in long grass. I think this grass is tall enough to completely obscure it. That might be it. It might also be a termite mound. Come on, Flows, come out onto the road. Well, since I don't have any definite plans, I might actually wait and see if this buffalo calf does come out when they move out onto the road, because they'll get there eventually. So while we wait patiently for our buffalo to move into shorter grass, let's join Scott once again on the back of Maggie the Mahindra to see how he's doing.
Hello everyone, I'm clearly having some trouble with my earpiece, hence me not welcoming you back on board. Sure, you've had a good time up in the Mara. You are now back in the Sabi sands of South Africa, and you'll notice it's a lot thicker here, and no updates as of yet. Just cruising along, hoping on finding some tracks or hearing some alarm calls, but nothing as of yet. The area that we're moving through now could hopefully provide us either with lion or possibly some leopard. I've just seen some tracks here, but they look like hyena tracks, of no interest to us. The Hukumuri male leopard, a new imposter, has been spending a lot of time in this kind of general area when he does come on to Djuma, so he's also likely candidates in this area. And I'm just holding this little radio here. Usually our game drive comms get wired straight into this earpiece, as well as our comms from the final control room, but because we've swapped vehicles and are just making a plan with this one, I've got kind of open game drive comms coming through here, so it's important that I keep listening to that for any updates. It's just Taxon and Rex and 2 other vehicles out exploring with us for now. And there may be 1 or 2 other vehicles that also come onto the scene a little bit later. So what we've done is we've just put one of the bushwalk backpacks on this vehicle, so that's how we've turned it into a game viewer until we get our other vehicles up and running. Lara Moy, you'd like to know what vehicle is this, and it's called the Squeaky Pig because it makes a lot of noise when we drive it, and we've had it, it's a Djuma vehicle that kind of comes with our lease agreement here, I guess. It comes with a package, and we usually use it for kind of tracking or just odd jobs. So it's a regular length safari vehicle, not like our stumpy little Land Rovers. There was an African hoopoe on the road, but it fluttered off. Let's see if we can get it though. It did land up ahead. Is it still there? Yeah, it is. Hopefully it'll stay put. Well done, Sens. And it's got its crest flared up. Keep watching it. It'll relax that crest and it'll all lie flat against its head. Once it kind of calms down, it's usually as they land that they flare it up. Beautiful. And it's still got all of its feathers ruffled up. It's definitely not a cold morning, but it is fairly cool. We actually had a tiny bit of drizzle, a slight downpour about 20 minutes before we went out. So a nice cool morning here for now. Now usually these guys cruise around in pairs, so I'm wondering where its partner in crime is. Maybe that's where it's headed off to go and look for its partner. So it's been quite a while since we've had some good views of Tundi and her cub, and sadly they have been to the south of our property, so we're going to make our way from our western boundary, if we don't have any luck here, onto our southern boundary, where hopefully we'll have some sign of her coming back to Djuma. Now, because we don't have any other working vehicles, Noel has very kindly offered to spend some time in the studio tent this morning, so why don't you guys head across and see what her plans are about what she's going to do in that tent. See you later.
Morning, everyone. I'm Noelle, and then on camera I've got Ferg. I don't know what I'm going to do this morning, Scott. This is my very first tent, and we were hoping for a walk, but it looks like the weather's just a little bit too iffy, maybe a little bit later. So I've got a couple of things that I wanted to show you. Yesterday, I was at my house, and I was sitting on my stoop, and I was checking out just the surroundings. I live on a little plot where it's nice bush, and all of a sudden my friend goes, "What's wrong with that squirrel? Did it fall in paint?" And this is what we saw, which is a melanistic tree squirrel just here. Now, I've seen many melanistic creatures, but I've never seen a melanistic tree squirrel. It was super exciting, and he apparently lives in my roof. So I will be seeing this melanistic tree squirrel a lot. This is obviously not my photo. I've gone onto the Google to show you because it was so quick yesterday and I didn't have my camera. So melanism is an overpigmentation. You get leucism, which is a lack of pigmentation, which is almost like albinism, where everything's white, but the eye color stays the same, or sometimes sort of a bluish tinge. And then with melanism, it's dark. dark. It's black. You get black impala. I've seen black pied babblers, which are supposed to be black and white. And then on the leucism side, I've seen white impala. I've seen white fork-tailed drongos. It's a super interesting gene that pops through, recessive gene that pops through. Then the other thing that I just wanted to talk with you guys quickly before we do a few more things in the tent is this photo here. Ferg, are you good if I put it like this? So I've been promising you a photo of a leopard that I took in 2013 on Gowrie, Maine, and I sent it through to a couple of the viewers, and they have definitely confirmed that this is Bahuti, one of the young males from Tundi from a while back, and I found this while rummaging through my my photos. Now I've got another one. There we go. Oops, that's a cheetah, not from here. There we go, sitting up in a marula tree. There near Twin Dams. Beautiful young male. He strutted around for us for quite a while. He's sitting there in a marula tree. Very nice. So now I haven't seen him since. I know many of you know the story of Bahuti, so if any of you want to send that through and we can answer that, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or on YouTube chat, and then we can have a little discussion around him if you would like to, and you can give me maybe past stories, or maybe you've got past screenshots that you would like to share. I always love doing that with all of you. Alrighty. So I think while I am busy setting up my next little surprise for you, which will probably also be a surprise for me as well, let's head on up to Jamie, who's in the Maasai Mara, who had the most beautiful sunrise and the cutest buffalo ever.
So while Noelle sets up a surprise, I wonder what she has in store for you. I think we found it. I think. It's really far away and it's really hard to tell in this long grass, and especially with the light at the moment. The sun hasn't really risen, so it's very difficult for us to see. But I think we spotted it. And in fact, when I say we, it was actually Adrian who spotted it. I was looking at a slightly larger calf off to the right of it. So with a little bit of teamwork, I think we've found the new baby. At the moment, it could be a termite mound. It's definitely a buffalo, though. Definitely a buffalo. It's just hidden in the grass. I think that is our new baby. And I think that mum is there. Oh, hey. Gently does it. Yeah. Which one's mum now? That one. The one that's just come in, I think. The one on the left. No, maybe not. Baby's following the one on the right. I don't remember her being that large, but I was actually looking at the baby. That's definitely it, though. Could actually be a mother, an older adult daughter, and a calf. Oh, look, 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 look. No, wait, hold on. Now I'm confused. Now there's two. Okay, the one on the right looks younger to me. Baby buffalo everywhere. Patrick is wondering about what are the normal migration patterns of buffalo. Where do they go? They don't migrate, not really. They'll move where the grass is green. Essentially, where there's good grazing is where the buffalo will move. So in Kruger, for example, during the dry season, they tend to move across into the Kruger, into places where the grazing is just slightly better outside of the sands. Whereas here, the buffalo actually are largely sedentary, to be honest. We've even got to know a couple of the distinct buffalo herds. This is the one that lives below us, below the escarpment, and there's the one with the pink noses. They live not too far away from here. So they'll still move around. Obviously, they're wild animals and they've got legs and they don't have territories. But that is essentially, they're largely sedentary. There's plenty of grazing, there's lots for them to eat. So there's no real reason for them to wander too far away. Well, I think we've found two little buffalo. Shall we say that that's it? I mean, we've seen the mothers. They're both looking healthy and happy. And I think we found our little one, who's already got its first oxpecker on its back. With its droopy ears. Oh, here we go. So patience paid off. The one on the left looks slightly smaller than the one on the right, from what I can see. So I think we've managed it. That is, either way, that's a very tiny buffalo calf. Rebecca says that it's so small it looks like a little sheep. And she reminds me of a story I was telling Adrian yesterday about a buffalo calf that ended up being raised by 2 sheep. It was the buffalo calf, long story, but essentially I came upon a female giving birth and the herd had turned on her, and they were disease-free buffalo that were deliberately being bred. So they were in a enclosed area, and the female was trying to give birth and the rest of the herd had just lost their minds. They were chasing her. It was a type of hysteria, pregnancy hysteria. All the hormones just confused them, and they were chasing this poor laboring female around, butting her in the sides, and the males were mounting the females were mounting the males, the females were mounting the females. It just turned into absolute chaos, and she kept trying to come and run behind our car to hide away. Anyway, long story short, she did give birth, but she was chased off by the rest of the herd, and the little calf kept trying to suckle from the buffalo bulls, which, as you can imagine, wasn't very well received and resulted in the poor little thing being kicked and stomped on, to the point that eventually we went, picked it up, wrapped it in a blanket, put it in the back of a vehicle and took it away from them and tried to find. We then walked all day to find the mother, to see if she was still alive. It was a very, very long day. We never found her in the end. So the buffalo, who went on to be named Patsy, became slightly problematic because of the tendency of buffalo calves to drink from behind their mothers. Right, well, I will finish that tale in a little bit because there's something amazing happening on Djuma. Let's go and rejoin Scott and the renamed Mahindra.
Yes, we have come across a young elephant bull who was quite excited when he first saw us, but he's calmed down now. I think he was just a little bit playful, as the younger bulls can be. And they've also got a bit of a spring in their step at the moment, and that's because it is the marula fruit season, which is definitely, I think, one of their favorite foods to feed on. And noticing a lot of bulls just cruising around from tree to tree, snacking on fruits. Haven't seen any herds doing it yet. Of course they will be doing it, and it's one of my favorite things to watch herd members try and race one another to the next tree to try and gobble up as many fruits as they can before their cousins and brothers and sisters do so. Still no sign of any predators just yet, and that is definitely going to be my focus for the morning. I've only got a few more days here in the Sabi Sands before I head on leave on the 15th, and then I'm probably not going to be back here for quite some time. I'm going to be heading back up to the Maasai Mara, so I'm hoping on cashing in on as many leopard sightings as possible before heading off, because this is definitely the better of the 2 locations to see leopard at. I only saw leopard probably 3 or 4 times in about 4 months up in the Maasai Mara when I was last there. So hopefully we'll get lucky, especially hoping to find Tundi and her youngster. Oh, it looks like we've come across some more ellies. This looks like a small breeding herd. Now, I've just heard a report over the radio, and apologies that you have to listen to it as well, but it is important that I keep my ear tuned into what's been seen and found, and there are some leopard tracks. I just didn't copy exactly where, but at least some tracks have been located. A good start. Isn't it incredible how quickly they can just disappear into this thick vegetation? One moment they were there and the next they were gone. And it gives you a good idea of how quickly you could stumble upon these giants when on a bushwalk. And it certainly has been wonderful spending a lot of time with them on foot over the last few months. Lots of great encounters with them. Alright, well, it sounds like we stole you away from Jamie to show you that elephant midway through her buffalo story, so why don't you guys head back on up all the way to the Maasai Mara to continue where you left off with her.
That's quite all right. I'm sure you all agree that that was a wise call on Rebecca's part. We are still with our buffalo, but talking about things disappearing. I've lost the babies completely. I do not know where they went. There's somewhere in that group around there. It's really difficult to tell in this long grass. I think that's one of the older ones over there. So our little one has disappeared, but I was telling you the story of the baby buffalo that was raised by a sheep. Anyway, so long story short, the baby buffalo's tendency to suckle from behind their mother's legs. So they don't suckle from the side, they go behind under the tail. That started to become slightly risky for the poor man who was bottle feeding said buffalo, because of course, in order to stimulate milk production, like all little herbivores, buffalo butt. Baby buffalo slam up onto their mom's mammary glands in order to stimulate the milk production. I don't think I need to paint you a picture as to why this was hazardous to the poor guy who was trying to feed the buffalo, especially when she was still hungry. So eventually Patsy was taken back to the rest of the herd. Her mum would not accept her, and as a result she was given 2 sheep as companions. I can't for the life of me remember why it was sheep. I think that was just what was obtainable at the time, and it was to just give her some company and to make her less vulnerable than she might otherwise have been on her own. The end result was she integrated eventually back into the herd, and one of the sheep was eaten by a leopard. Poor thing. But that's the tale of the buffalo and the sheep. It was a very strange thing to drive past and see a buffalo with almost fully grown, with 2 sheep or trottering along after 2 sheep. It raised some eyebrows. Interesting other little tiny fact that we were discussing yesterday. Baby buffalo. For some reason I've been involved with the raising of quite a few baby buffalo. You can't feed them cow's milk. Now, Lauren's wondering about orphaned babies from the herd, and I missed the actual essence of the question. It was, will the other buffalo or will the herd adopt orphaned babies? Was that correct, or did I mishear that completely? There we go. Yes, so apparently that was what you asked. They'll accept a baby buffalo, they won't adopt it. So what you'll see is if a baby buffalo mistakes one female for its mother, and it's not its mother, it will find itself on the receiving end of some serious aggression. They'll butt it. I've seen baby buffalo being thrown right up into the air before, so they're not treated as offspring, as true offspring, but they'll be allowed to hang around, and because of course they wean quite quickly, if they're orphaned and they're able to survive without milk, then they'll be okay. They will stick with the rest of the herd, and chances are, if a predator does attack them, even though mum isn't there in that scenario, the chances are that herd might still actually try and protect them and band together to chase the predators away, just like they would do in any other situation. They're moving towards the road. I might try and go around. I've been sitting still waiting for the sun to come up. I know that's very naughty, but I haven't really wanted to move until it gets a bit warmer. Looking for lions quickly. You never know. So while we go and catch up with our buffalo on the road, it's an alliterative morning for Brent. He's got a Thompson's on a termite mound.
Yes, it's quite unusual to see Tommies on top of termite mounds. That's why I've stopped. I'm just trying to look around to see if this Tommy has spotted something. She's not snorting, so she might have maybe just picked up on some movement that she's unsure of, and she's now double checking it. Good look around. Maybe not. Maybe she's just decided to climb for a bit. Well, it's a bit too early warmth. It's actually got colder this morning, even though the sun's come out. It's given us some lovely light, but warmth it has not just yet. So become more and more covered. Now I just want to have a quick look. I saw something in the distance.
It seems as though Brent is having a bad morning. He's trying to talk to you and it just isn't working, so we apologize for that. They'd best get that sorted as quickly as possible. That's alright. We are doing a loop around to get closer to the buffalo herd, who are now out in the open. Maybe we'll get lucky and we'll find the baby again. I think I left it a little bit late. Quick, over to Scott.
The drone, trying to see if we could get that working so that we can all experience a bit of drone action this morning. I have a very special bush for you. Oh, as I poke myself in the eye. Okay, this is a gwori tree. One of the ways that you can tell that it's a gwori is how the leaves grow up, and they've got an undulating margin here, a wavy margin. Okay, this particular gwori, not all gworis have wavy margins. This is a magic gwori, and it is used for many different things. Now, the piece that I want to show you today, and I'm going to put my own disclaimer on this, is I am not a traditional healer. I'm not a Sangoma, but I've had friends who've showed me how this is supposed to work if you are a Sangoma. So what you do, if you want to find water, is you get a Y-shaped branch like this, and you hold it with the pointy end pointing out. And if you have this ability to find water, you walk. It's like a divining stick, yeah? You walk, and as you walk, if you're finding water, it will actually rotate in your hands. And when you get to where the water is, it will point down. Now, I've seen this happen. I worked with a guy many years ago who he didn't come outright and say it, but he's the one who taught me about this, and watched him, and he did it. And later that year, we were digging for a new borehole, which is how we get water here. So you have a well, and a well is dug and the water sort of comes up. A borehole, you dig down and you pump the water out, yeah? And where, pretty much where he had pointed down is where we had the borehole dug. It's amazing. There's a lot of traditional culture around the plants, and Herbie talks about it often when he's out and about around the plants here in southern Africa, and I'm sure up in Kenya. I'd be interested if Jamie or Brent has any medicinal plants that maybe are used up that side. Now, my other favorite thing to do with this tree, and all of us have learned this at some point with guides, is it's very important to have clean teeth. And the gworis work very well for this. So what you want to do is you want to take the outer layer off of bark. You want to get down into the cambium layer. And you see how it goes from being sort of brittle down to being quite bright green, and it's actually wet. Okay, so you want to get all that off. Inner and outer layer, and then you get down to the cambium layer. Then what you do, you put it in your mouth and you bite it. Sorry, Ferg's shorter than me. I'll do this, Ferg. And you turn it, and you have to make the funny face or it doesn't work. You turn it and you bite. And then you fray the edges like this. And then you have a toothbrush. And it works quite well. I've been on overnights with watching lions and things like that, and I've forgotten my toothbrush before and have used this. I have not made toothpaste out of leadwood bark and water yet, but that's something that I will definitely have to get going at some point. So now that I have clean teeth for TV, I've got another little thing that I want to show you that I found today that I find really interesting. So we talk a lot about symbiotic relationships, and symbiotic relationships are important for nature to function. Now, one of my favorite symbiotic relationships is lichen. So you can see some lichen just here. or here rather. Is that better, Ferg?
That makes sense.
There we go. So you get fungi and you get algae. Now algae needs a place to grow that is moist and cannot produce, well, it can produce its own food. It has got chloroform, it needs light, and it needs moisture. The fungi need something to eat. So basically what you're doing is you're doing fungi in like a hamburger sandwich with the algae in the middle. So the fungi makes a home for the algae, and the algae produces food for the fungi. And you'll find that in actually across the world, the reason why we can have this gory tree that I spoke about and the soil that we're sitting on, the grass that we're seeing, is because of this lichen. It breaks down, it grows on rocks, and it breaks down the rock into soil and actually puts nutrients back in the soil. And that's one of the ways that life was created. That and cyanobacteria. But cyanobacteria is another conversation we're going to have at a different point, because that takes me drawing a lot, and I am not a very good artist, unfortunately. And it's going to be a little bit of a longer escapade, the cyanobacteria. But while I'm getting that ready, let's go up to Jamie, who has another symbiotic relationship up in Kenya in the Maasai Mara. So we're going to head on up to her so that she can speak about that one for you.
One that is slightly more complex, of course, the relationship between the oxpecker and its host. Though studies have shown that actually it doesn't make a big difference to the animal's parasite load. The fact that they have these birds sitting on their backs, busy grooming through their fur, looking for ticks or any other type of external parasite, as well as the odd bit of dandruff, blood, mucus, earwax. That is what they're after. At the same time, of course, most of our regular viewers know if there's any kind of injury on the animal, the oxpeckers are actually quite a hindrance. They'll stop it from healing, they peck at it, and they ultimately they could actually potentially cause an infection as well. It's a complex relationship between the oxpecker and their hosts. They're not always all that beneficial. Most of the time they're just benefiting themselves. They can eat up to 1,000 ticks a day. They are essentially feeding off the blood of the animals. But the reason it doesn't help them that much is those ticks have actually already fed on the buffalo. They're already attached, and often they pull off the ticks while the head is still embedded in the skin. It doesn't always help them, but they are ever present. And we've got yellow-billed oxpeckers sitting on top of this buffalo bull. There's the baby, there's the baby, there's the baby. There we go. There's the little one. There's a little one. That looks like the little one, covered in mum's excrement. I think there's another one coming. Sorry, Lisa. Hold on. There's another one. There are the two little ones that we were looking at before. Finally, we found them. There we go. Tiny little one behind. Let's have a closer look before it disappears. No, don't block us. Don't block us. Ah, buffalo. Having little scraps. There's the two babies at the back. So the two females must have given birth quite soon after each other. I think it's the little one in front that's going to walk out soon. That was the new one. Yeah, that one, to the right, That one, yeah. There we go. I think that's our little buffalo from yesterday, I think. Not 100% sure. So sweet. Hey, we managed it after all that. There goes the other little one. I think a little bit older than the one we were looking at first. And there's a question about the previous buffalo's ears. No, not all buffalo's ears are as pink as that. Just to quickly answer, I think that there's something irritating that was irritating that buffalo's ears. But let's stay looking at the little ones, because we've worked quite hard to find them. We've stayed in one place, waiting for the opportunity. And true to form, the buffalo have decided they're all going to block us. Well, strangely enough, I never thought I'd say this, but it seems to be a buffalo-themed morning this morning. I mentioned that they have returned to Djuma. Let's go and join Scott with some more.
Well, the buffalo certainly have returned to Djuma, and this is the most buffalo that I have seen in the 2 months of being back here. And as Senzo zooms out, you'll notice there are hundreds of them. And what an awesome scene. Quite a few youngsters, big bulls, their mothers. Lots of them you can see are having a swim, and still quite a few are making their way towards us. As you can see, they look quite calm for now, so I'm guessing there's no lions hot on their tail, but that could change at any moment. The resident prides of lion love following these large herds of buffalo because they know full well that there are lots of good opportunities for a meal. But no reports of any lion just yet this morning. The report that I had about a leopard earlier, it was just tracks heading towards our boundary. It wasn't an animal that had been seen, but still good prospects, and we'll head off into that area a little bit later to see if the tracks don't in fact cross. I'm told a lot of you are astounded at how many buffalo you're looking at. Oh, there's a young little calf. Its umbilical cord was still a little bit wobbly. Gary, you'd like to know if these animals are kind of like the Asian buffalo, or water buffalo. I guess, yeah, they're fairly similar in a sense. They look fairly similar. The Asian buffaloes aren't as big as these individuals, and they're definitely a lot more placid, so their nature is quite a lot different to these guys. These can be very dangerous to us, especially if on foot. But the Asian buffaloes have been domesticated quite a lot. These can be domesticated, interestingly enough, but I would be very cautious of one of them because they are known to have quite a short fuse, the Cape buffalo. So I guess, yeah, I mean, they're fairly similar, but they are definitely not the same beasts. And you get quite a few buffalo listed across the globe. It's also the American buffalo. You get forest buffalo that are smaller than these guys in Central Africa. So lots of variations of buffalo in different parts of the globe. I wonder how big this herd is. They just kind of keep streaming in from the north. I would guess about 200 animals possibly. And Jeremiah, you, just like myself, and I'm sure quite a few others, are wondering, where are the lions? Well, we've got no idea. What's that? Oh, Senzo spotted a monitor lizard somewhere. Where is it? Oh, nice one, Senz. A nice big monitor lizard's been disturbed by these buffalo, and what an awesome scene. Let me try and creep forward a little bit to get some better views. There we go. Oh no, that's not going to work at all. Let me reverse a bit. Oof, not much of a window of opportunity there for Sens, but beautiful markings. Look at that long tongue. Sniffing there every time it puts its tongue out. And you wonder where this guy chills out, because we spend a lot of time at this waterhole, and you probably find that he's a resident here, but no sign of him a lot of the time. There's quite a few vehicles that have just driven past, and it is a boundary road. I'm just kind of trying to take a look around just to see that there's no surprises making their way towards us. It would be A wonderful thing if a leopard popped onto the scene here. Brenda, you'd like to know if there's usually hippopotamus in the small waterhole, and no, not since I've been back here. I haven't seen one hippo here in the last few months. This is Twin Dams. Treehouse Dam's not too far away. There's been one hippo that's either been lurking there or at Buffelshoek Dam. We think it's the same hippo that's kind of bouncing between those two waterholes. But just like the buffalo numbers having decreased over the last few months and years due to the droughts, the buffalo, it's also the hippo numbers that have decreased quite a bit. So there's been a definite change there with their population. I'm interested to know how long it's going to take before the old resident buffalo bulls start to call Djuma home. It was seldom that we always had kind of big herds like this on the property, but we always, almost every single day, we used to have big old bulls that were kind of semi-retired here. And it'll be nice to have some back here. It definitely makes you be on extra high alert when you're on bushwalk, when there's these guys around, because they can provide probably the biggest threat to us on foot. Jenny, you'd like to know if bigger horns will indicate a older buffalo, and not necessarily. I mean, yes, as a general rule, the horns become bigger with age, but genetics play a huge role in the size of horns. So you sometimes get some old bulls that just don't have the biggest set of horns. It all comes down to genetics. And interestingly, you can sometimes have females with very, very wide horns, sometimes even wider than the males. So both males and females can possess big horns. It's just the males will have a big crown of horn in the center of their head, whereas these ones you're looking at now are all ladies. They had a kind of hairy middle parting, whereas the big bulls have a bony center.
Just getting the area. I have to check first, so I'll let you know, but if I'm going something there by June.
Now the good news is that even though we are close to our southern boundary, these buffalo look like they're going to stay on Djuma and not continue south away from us. It looks like they're heading off in a westerly direction, and the longer they stay on the property, the longer or the bigger the chances of the lions being lured back. Got no idea where the Inkuhuma pride are. That's the one pride we could see, nor the Torchwood pride to our east. I wonder how much water they would have drunk between all of them out of this waterhole. When we arrived onto the scene, Senzo said, "Oh no, they're going to drink all the water." And I don't think there's a risk of that happening, but it would be, like I said, a very interesting statistic to know how much a herd of this size will remove. Let's have a quick look at the monitor lizard again. Oh, it just flicked the buffalo on the nose. There's two monitor lizards now, and it literally just slapped the buffalo on the face, but it looks like two of them are having a bit of a territorial dispute there. Look at them fighting, and what they do is they bring their tail parallel to their body, and then it's getting ready for a flick. And it looks like the smaller monitor lizard's giving the bigger one a hard time. That poor buffalo that we're looking at now just got flicked in the face by the larger monitor lizard. It was absolutely beautiful to witness, actually, that such a big beast getting walloped by such a small one in comparison. I'm so sad we only noticed that too late to get Senzo onto the scene. because that was definitely a first for me. The little tip, 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 tip noise you can hear are some blacksmith lapwings just ahead of us. They're chirping away. There they go again. Carl, you'd like to know if buffaloes ever get attacked by crocodiles, and yes, they do. But we don't have a huge amount of crocodiles in our area here of the Sabi Sands. The majority of them like to hang out at large waterholes and or the Sand or Sabi River, the two main rivers that flow through the reserve. And I have come across an interesting scene once where actually lions caught a buffalo and crocodiles stole it from them. But there is definitely a risk for these buffaloes from large crocodiles. I don't think it's something that happens hugely often, but crocodiles will take their chances when the opportunity presents itself to them. I actually saw an incredible clip the other day of a crocodile that latched onto a big buffalo bull, latched onto its nose, and the buffalo reversed out of the water and dragged the crocodile out the water with it. And the buffalo bull's partner came in and gored the crocodile, sent it flying into the sky, using its horns to attack. So I have seen a crocodile getting quite badly put in its place by these guys. Oh, this guy's got one horn. Ooh, that doesn't look pretty, does it? That's a female, interestingly, and you wonder how that horn broke off, and you wonder how much discomfort she's in, not looking like she's in a pretty spot. Anyway, we're probably going to move on from these buffalo for now, and you are also going to move on. You're going to head back to Noel in the tent.
So Scotty D, that herd that you're looking at is the herd that we had just before we started rehearsals, or just in the just the beginning of rehearsals, and that female, that blood was actually dripping down. Now, where that female has broken off her horn is actually here. Okay, so this that we're looking at, this is bone, and the bone will come and sort of taper off into this point and is then covered by a keratin sheath. Okay, so if the horn breaks off up here, it doesn't really affect anything. If it breaks here, also doesn't affect anything. If it breaks down here where that female's broken it off, that's where all that blood is coming through, because there's still nerve endings and everything building up into that bone. Shame. That has to be very, very painful. Now, there's also a teeny tiny baby buffalo that's in that herd, Scott, so I'd be interested to know if it's still around, if you can see it. When we saw it a couple of weeks ago, it was brand new, probably from that day. You could still see the umbilical cord on the little one and the placenta coming off. Now, I tried to draw Africa for you, and it's sad. This is my Africa. I was trying to draw. Here is where Jamie and Brent are in Kenya, and then coming all the way down to where we are in South Africa. And we're just relationships and how everything functions, and I was going to draw it for you, but I decided not to draw it for you again. I've decided to show you in another place where I've drawn it, so where it actually makes sense and looks pretty. I just wanted to chat about the nitrogen cycle a little bit and how it works for us here and how it basically helps produce food. So, Ferg, if you wouldn't mind, we've got a beautiful little drawing I've done here. Okay, this is for part of my studies.
We'll lift it so I don't have a shadow.
How's that?
There we go.
Much better. A little bit better. We're trying not to have a shadow. Okay, so basically what happens, lightning comes, so we had rain this morning. Lightning comes and produces nitrogen, and that nitrogen goes into the soil. Okay? An animal like this buffalo that I'm showing you here, it's a kudu in my photo, in case you can't tell what I drew there. This buffalo will die, and as it dies, the dead organic material is then broken down and turned into organic material which then mineralizes, okay, into the soil and produces ammonia. That also, the waste matter from the live animal, this is a kudu, but I'm holding the buffalo, from the live buffalo, will also break down into ammonia. And this is all extremely important for the mineralization into the soil itself, okay? When this ammonia also breaks down, it also starts producing nitrates, and the nitrates also help with nitrification of the soil, which is again extremely important. All of these processes, without them, we wouldn't have food for ourselves, we wouldn't have food for buffalo, we wouldn't have food for kudu, we wouldn't actually be able to do anything that we're doing here with Safari Live, incredibly enough. It also has to do with the plant matter, and we've done a few plants today, and the fact that they can fix nitrogen into the soil with specific bacteria that lives inside of the root, which then helps with the ammonia. Okay, and remember, this is all cyclical. This is all going in a big circle. Okay, so without getting too much more technical than that, this is also something that we learn for guiding for our exams, but also that just to have in our head, and also to remember that everything loops and is in a circle and is important, rather than something like, I'm going to attempt to draw now. Good luck, everybody. A trophic pyramid. So this was something that many of you would have learned in school, okay? So you have plants, you have the herbivores that eat the plant, if I can spell, and then you have carnivores that eat the herbivores. But what this doesn't do is it doesn't do the circle. It basically just says, here's energy, and then energy moves up and is lost a little bit and produced into more energy, and then it goes into here. But then it doesn't talk about what happens when this carnivore dies or when this herbivore dies. And that's part of what the nutrient cycle takes care of. And then also food webs and the carbon cycle, which maybe we'll talk about a little bit later, depending. Maybe I'm being a little bit too dry this morning. We'll have to wait and see. All right. Our buffalo that Scott has, and I'm very jealous he has them. I'm hoping our lions pop back up. Has quite a thick, hard skull, and a very, I'm trying to see if we can get into the brain here, but we're not probably going to be able to. Not a small brain casing, but, you know, it's not a dumb animal. All animals have intelligence, but it's not necessarily the smartest. Its senses are good, but, you know, it's a herd species that follows each other. But it's protecting itself physiologically with the type of skull that it has up here. This is very thick. Okay, so this buffalo is able to defend itself quite well with just sort of the weight of its head and how the horn structure has figured it out. So Mother Nature has done a very good job of being able to protect this particular species. Now, sorry about that. Jamie also has buffalo, stuttering a little bit. So let's head on up, not in my horrible drawing, but in real life, to Kenya, to Jamie, so that she can chat a little bit more about these amazing creatures.
My buffalo have gone, I'm sorry. I left the buffalo. I've left them behind and I've gone off in search of other things, but we did spend most of our morning with the buffalo. I wonder where I fall on the food pyramid. I don't know if there's a little square somewhere there for desertarian. Ali once bought a chocolate cake that was about this big for Tristan's birthday, and for some reason she left it with us. And I ate cake solidly for 3 days, because that's what being an adult's all about. It's having the right to decide when you eat chocolate cake for every meal, and then lying with a sore stomach and realizing that's why your parents didn't let you do it when you were a kid. Also, with Noel being in the tent, it reminded me of none of us are employed for our artistic abilities, let's be honest, but it reminded me of the deep fryer incident, where I forgot how to spell deep and I forgot how to spell fryer, and for the life of me I cannot remember why I was writing deep fryer in the first place. I've been sitting trying to think of it since Rebecca told me that Noel was trying to draw Africa, and I cannot for the life of me remember why I was doing a segment in the tent where I felt the need to write the words deep fryer. The end result, of course, was that I spelled fryer as in fryer tuck, rather than something that you fry something in. It was disastrous. But why on earth I wrote deep fryer, I will never know. Beats me. Anyway, Brent has had to return to camp. Unfortunately, he's going to try and sort out his problems. Rebecca remembers the deep fryer incident, but why was I writing deep fryer? I have no idea. Oh, that's very pretty. Oh, no, don't. Oh, you bird. I hope there's no one behind me. I've lost them completely now. There's a white-browed cuckoo sitting in the sun looking very pretty. Oh, I can see them. We're going looking for the marsh breakaways, by the way. I don't know where the Olololos have gone. They've vanished. I've been searching for them for 2 days. Well, since I got back, and I haven't found them. Now determined, we're going to get this cuckoo on camera. We were actually talking about cuckoos yesterday and their relationship with cuckoos, and the fact that they are not in any way brood. Stop flying away from me. There we go. Haha. Done it. We have managed it. Part of the same family, which is fantastically called the Cuculidae family. And I remembered why it rang such a bell yesterday. It was because it was one of those things I learned off by heart. When you have to learn the breakdown from the phylum all the way down to the species. And the cuckoo was the easiest one to learn because it basically goes Cuculiformes, Cuculidae, Cuculus, and I can't remember the last one. I can't remember which species it was that I learned off by heart. But they fall into the same family as cuckoos. The Cuculidae family, but they are not brood parasites, so they do not parasitize other birds' nests and make them raise their chicks for them. White-browed cuckoo, for those of you who are new to these safaris and want to start your bird list. Okay, so we've got a little bit of context behind the deep fryer. Was it Sharon, Bex? I didn't quite hear there, but Sharon says it was because I was doing a mock murder scenario. Because I was doing a mock murder scenario. Thank you, Sharon, for that reminder. I remember now, wasn't it it was like a Cluedo type thing. It was the weapon, or the murder weapon, or something. And Arlara Moore, yes, I remember that. I do remember that the deep fryer ultimately became the philosophical monk. The philosophical monk. The deep fryer. Oh, that was such a disaster. It was one of those moments where one's brain just goes off on a tangent. I couldn't keep a straight face. Final Control were just laughing at me. Which is fair enough, I was laughing at me too. Oh, okay, we've got some birdies coming up. First of all, is that a bird sitting on that tree? Yes, definitely. Now, which birdie is it? I'm not sure we could term it birdie. It is a very large bird. It is that's a tree, no? But to the right of where you are, there we go. Ah, it's the leopard-faced. I always see them around here. I'm very sorry, I need to sneeze. Oh no, now it's gone. Ooh. There we go, pair of leopard-faced vultures. I think they nest somewhere around here because I see them almost every morning when we drive along this road, coming out onto the dead tree and enjoying a little bit of the early morning sun. And they're always perched about here. Karen, you want to know how far away that ridge is in the background? It's probably 3 kilometers away or so. I don't know what that is in miles. 2 miles? Just under 2 miles? What would that be? Oh, I'm so bad with miles and kilometers. I'm not good with miles at all. It's about 3 kilometers away, give or take, to get to the top. If I wanted to drive to the top of that, it would take me about, I'd have to go through Olololo Gate. I don't even think there is a road that goes there, now that I think of it. But it would, no, there is, because there's a lodge up at the top there. It would take me probably around 45 minutes to drive to the top of that ridge. So that is the Olololo Escarpment. That is where the Olololo Gate gets its name from. It's also where the Olololo Pride gets its name from. And it is spelt O-L-O-O-L-O-L-O... what? I nearly did manage it. O-L-O-O-L-O-L-O. Olololo. It basically describes the jagged path that the mountain range takes. Olololo, the Olololo mountain range. Olololo. It gets stranger the more often you say it, I promise. It gets harder to spell the more often you say it as well. It's hard to keep track of all the O's and all the L's. But that is the Olololo range. And we live on top of it, with the best view possibly that one could have anywhere in the world, but I am biased. It is a truly spectacular view. Looking across the Maasai Mara, elephants come and visit us. It's lovely. Some ellies in the background. Shame. There's a vulture currently in residence at the camp next to ours, being looked after by a couple of researchers that we've become friendly with. And unfortunately, this poor vulture was poisoned. Obviously fed off a poisoned carcass that had been laid out, and was found on the road and is now being treated every 2 hours for the poison that it's ingested. I'll go pay it a visit a little bit later today. Take a photograph of it. It's a white-backed vulture, not a leopard-faced vulture. It's one of those unfortunate realities, and vultures don't get nearly as much attention as they deserve. They're smelly, they're not beautiful looking, and people disregard their importance. Lauren, on a different tack entirely, I'm going to have to move out of the road. So hold that thought, Lauren, and we will talk about fruits in a second. I don't quite know how I'm going to manage this, but somehow we'll do it. Ooh. There we go. Can have a look at our ellies again. Good morning. Oh my goodness, everyone's in such a good mood this morning. So many smiles. You'd think people would be a little bit happier. Oh, Lauren, elephants eat the fruits of the Balanites tree, or the seeds of the Balanites tree. That is one of their favorites that they feed off here. It's basically almost a nut rather than a fruit, but it does come from the tree. And then they will also eat figs. And then there's and lots of things like, oh my goodness, the name's just gone out of my mind. The little bright red berries that grow on the tree outside of our tent, and I can't remember what they're called. The other mystery is I noticed in their dung a couple of weeks ago a fruit that looked like a marula fruit, but we don't get marulas here, and I still haven't worked out where it came from or what tree it came from, because I haven't seen that fruit anywhere on any of the trees out here. I assume they're getting it from somewhere around the river. But at one point, every single pile of elephant dung I went through had these big round fruits in them, and I don't know what it was. There are species of, or a different type of jackalberry that occurs out here that will also produce fruits that they enjoy. Elephants love fruit. All animals, well, most animals enjoy fruit. If they are herbivorous, they will enjoy eating fruit, or omnivorous. Jackals will eat fruits as well. The extra sugar content is obviously exceptionally beneficial to them. I know it's marula season in South Africa, and I am exceptionally jealous of this fact. But I am going home for the first time in 8 months very soon. So I will be able to enjoy some marula fruit. Just have to hold out for just a little bit longer. I'm very excited. Shall we go have a look at those ostriches? I think we should. It takes us in the direction of the lions and it gets us a little bit closer to the elephants as well. So while we get closer to our very large birds and possibly some elephants as well, let's go and find out how Scott's morning's going on Djuma.
We are doing very well, everyone, and have got some exciting news in that there is an animal that has been found not far from us. It's just approaching a waterhole which is further down this road, and it's an animal that a lot of you may not have met yet. It is the rogue male leopard called Hukumuri that has been found. Sadly though, there are 3 vehicles with him, so we are now waiting patiently to be called in once one of them moves out. So for those of you who may be new to Safari Live, it's important that you know that here in the Sabi Sands, unlike the Mara, we have a limit of 3 vehicles per sighting. So we just manage the standbys over this radio, and it sounds like he's been up and down on the move looking for a meal. So hopefully in the next few minutes we'll get our call to go in and join the sighting. Thankfully he's heading away from our southern boundary where he was located about 10 minutes ago. I just hope that he doesn't disappear off into thick vegetation, because off-roading and following him is not going to be easy in this vehicle that we're in now. It's not nearly as easy to maneuver these vehicles as it is to maneuver our regular vehicles, which all 3 have decided to brake. Hopefully they'll be back up and running today. We've got somebody coming in to check them out. And we're very, very lucky that it didn't happen a few days ago when we still had TV shows, because that would have been a nightmare. Well, I guess it did happen to Tristan on the final TV show. His vehicle didn't work. Lilani, you would like to know if I've got a favorite predator and prey animal, so both, that I like to see on safari. Well, yes, here in the Sabi Sands, the leopard is my favorite predator. Wild dogs are actually also very cool to follow, but very difficult to follow because they move so quickly. Up in the Mara, the cheetah is probably my favorite predator, so kind of depends on where we are and what exactly we're doing. I really would like to go into an area where we could follow wild dog and use a drone to film them. That would be a lot of fun. Wild dog do pass through here, but not as often as we would like. Okay, that's the radio call we were looking for. Somebody's making their way out of the sighting so we can go in. Copy that, thank you. I would like to copy that, thanks. I'll join as the 3rd. Okay, in terms of prey animals, I don't really have any major favorites, to be honest. Kudu are impressive, and Nyala are impressive. Okay, now we should be getting lucky shortly. We just need to spot the vehicles, which I think are just south of this little waterhole, but the game drive radio doesn't seem to be working too well today, so I'm only getting broken messages. Okay, I've spotted the vehicles, so we're in luck. I know where we need to go now. It'll just take us a couple of minutes to get there, but I can see where the vehicles are, and where the vehicles are, the leopard is. Woohoo! Hopefully the leopard's going to come and take a drink at this waterhole later. That'll be wonderful to see. He has been steadily making his way towards us where we are here. Okay, well, let's just establish things here. We'll call you back as soon as we're in position, and it sounds like Jamie, all the way back up in the Maasai Mara, has got a herd of buffalo, possibly elephant, maybe both. Who knows? But why don't you go and see?
Oh, how exciting. I'm very happy to hear that Scott is going to get you some spots on camera. So we'll keep you entertained while we wait with a little baby elephant who is... I don't really know what it's doing. There's Mum. Running back to Mum. There's Mum. There you go. It's okay. Did you get a little bit separated there? Had a little minor panic? Stayed with an older sibling or an older cousin perhaps, and then realized Mum actually hadn't followed. Look at its ears. Let's have a little bit of a closer look there. It's being so entertaining. They're always so full of energy at this time of the morning, these little ones. Ears out, tails out, running, dashing backwards and forwards, watched by the patient older elephants who have seen it all before. It's tiny. Still looks like it's under a year old, as though it might fit under Mum's belly. This is the area of the marsh breakaway pride, so hopefully we'll actually find them on our way through as we check this lugger. Catching up with the rest of the herd. Beautiful. And we got our ostriches as well, who are off to the left. There we go. 3 males and a couple of females as well. Mita is a 9-year-old, one of our 9-year-old viewers, and has become part of the Wild Earth family. It's always lovely to hear Mita's name. Mita, no, I don't think so. I don't think anybody's been back to the creepy old abandoned car where Brent found the geocache. I'm now laughing, Mita. You've reminded me of Rebecca's pure unbridled disappointment that it was Brent who found the geocache after we'd been through Uganda looking for one in the Entebbe Botanical Gardens, and we didn't manage to find it. And then Brent found one in the middle of the Maasai Mara, and poor Rebecca was... How would we describe it, Bex? Would we say you were slightly put out by that fact? I think possibly. Because, of course, Rebecca says the description would be devastated and heartbroken and appalled. So there we go. Some truly dramatic reactions in response to Brent finding the old abandoned car with the geocache in it. Mita, no. Nobody's been back as far as I know, but I'm sure that... Rebecca. No, nobody's been back. They found an old abandoned... What was it again? Jeepers, I can't even remember. Was it a Volkswagen? I think it might have been. I now can't... You'd think you'd never forget something like that, but I can't remember. And they found it abandoned in the middle of the Mara. And they found a geocache in a box in the abandoned car. So no one's been back. I've been past it a few times and I've seen it from a distance, but I haven't gone to check up on it. And some warthog in the back as well. It was found by 2 people who were very, very excited about the find, but not terribly interested in the geocache that was within it. Poor Rebecca. I thought it was very exciting. and very entertaining, despite the fact that poor Brent was then pilloried from a great height by various people telling him he'd broken the rules of the geocaching rule thing society. I don't know what you'd describe it as, but apparently he had done committed a serious faux pas by revealing its location. Rebecca tells me that he had let the secret out of the box and let the muggles know where the geocache was. As a muggle myself, I can only assume that this was quite a serious transgression and apologize on his behalf. We are sincerely sorry. Cecilia, we do not get peacocks in the Mara, fortunately, for they do not belong here. You will, however, find peacocks in Nairobi. I have heard them on multiple occasions when I've been there, and they are, of course, introduced species. They've been brought in as, I wouldn't say comfort animals. What are they called? Support animals, but they've been brought in as pets that people have had in their gardens and then have become a feral population of peacocks. Not something I ever thought that I would say, but they are around just in the same way that they are in Johannesburg. If you go to certain areas in Johannesburg, you will most definitely hear the raucous sound of a peacock in somebody's large garden somewhere in the leafy green suburbs. But you will not find any peacock in the Mara. Or if you do, it is one very confused peacock. And we would be very confused as well, and inclined to remove it from a place it does not belong. So no peacocks here. We do have ostriches. We also, strangely enough, do not have penguins. Do you know how difficult it was to try and say the word penguin as it flowed in organically into a TV series? Jamie, if you could use the word penguin, okay, I'll try. Try and think of a way to say the word penguin in the Maasai Mara. Is, of course, the other flightless bird in Africa. 3 males on the left, 2 females on the right. And a warthog. Becca, one of those strange old wives' tales. No, elephants do not bury their heads. Elephants? That's not an elephant, that's an ostrich. You weren't talking about elephants at all. I do apologize. Ostriches do not bury their heads in the sand in order to hide. One of the potential reasons why it's thought that rumor started, or that old wives' tale started, is because they will lie down and try and hide their nests, and they will lie relatively flat on the nests in order to hide themselves. But no, they do not hide their heads in the sand. They would struggle here. They'd get a serious headache. Quick, off you go back across to Scott, who has managed to find you some spots this morning.
We certainly have. We finally got into position with the Hukumuri male leopard, and it seems like he is on a mission. I'm hoping he's going to pop out into a nice clear view for you guys shortly, and I'm hoping that he actually walks down a little road that he's about to pop on. He could walk straight towards us, but in the short time that we've been with him, it appears like he is chopping and changing direction. So let's keep moving, because he's not heading the way I was hoping he was going to. Always a bit of a gamble predicting their movements. There we go. And this may well be a lot of your first time laying eyes on this specific male leopard. We've seen him quite a bit, but it's always been in the rehearsals for TV shows that we've been doing. So let's keep moving. So not a guy that we've put on camera too much for you guys. Now, he is heading into a very, very tricky area for us to follow him. But let's try and get ahead of him at least one more time before making our next plan. We may have to do a big loop around a small riverbed that I think he may cross through, but we should be able to stay with him for a little bit. There's a bit of an opening here that we can sneak through. Okay, this is going to work well. Let's reverse a little bit. He's chopping and changing his direction. Quarrelina, you say, oh dear, he's here, and the reason that you're saying oh dear is that this male leopard can and will pose a threat to a female leopard called Tundi, and specifically her young cub. He is not the father of her cub, and he's recently started pushing into this area, putting pressure on the dominant male called Tingana, and he was also seen having a quarrel with one of the other dominant males to our north called Djuma. So this guy is a man on a mission, and sadly it is going to prove dangerous for any leopards that are not his own, and it's not uncommon for male leopards to kill cubs that they did not father, and that releases the mother of her responsibility of raising them, and therefore he can get his genes into the system. So it's normal behavior with leopards, but sadly not one that's easy for us to witness. What an awesome scene, and so happy that we've finally managed to catch up with this guy. He's been moving huge distances, and yesterday he was quite far from here, and there's nothing better than being in our situation, being able to document, a takeover, which is exactly what's happening here, or some kind of dispute between leopards. Now, we're going to have to loop around. Duchess, you'd like to know if Tingana's been seen scent marking since this guy's came along, and I'm not too sure. I think Tingana definitely knows that this guy is around. I think they may have already had a few quarrels together. We just haven't documented it, but I'm fairly confident that Tingana knows he's getting some pressure, and it'll be very interesting to see exactly how the next few months pan out with regards to the behavior of the male leopards, namely Tingana and this individual. I've got a feeling that this guy has already possibly, like I said, had words with Tingana and possibly come out on top. I would expect to have been seeing Tingana more in this area had he really wanted to put up a fight to keep this male away, but we are not seeing that. So anything could happen. Now, another interesting thing that could happen this morning is that herd of buffalo that we saw earlier is not too far from where we are now. They were heading in this direction, and this male leopard could well try and snipe one of the young calves out of that herd. It would be an incredible scene for us to witness. So that's something to look forward to, possibly. Let's just hope that the leopard does pop out here. He was heading straight towards this area, but there was a small little riverbed that we wouldn't have been able to negotiate in this vehicle, so we had to do a loop around. I can hear squirrels alarm calling like crazy, so they can see him. But where is he moving? Huh. There's so many thick hiding places down in a little gully below us here, where if he had laid down, we would almost definitely not be able to see him. Let's see if I can poke my nose in here. They've got him up ahead there. Good, we're going to send you across to Noel while we get back into position with this leopard.
D, how exciting to have old chicken medicine on screen again. I'm starting to like that male more and more. He's a little bit of a beast of a male. Now, we have something that is also hiding and being a little bit reclusive, just like Hukumuri. We have the home of a baboon spider. And you can see, I'm not going to pull this baboon spider out today because its web is nice and solid, but there we go. To help, and it's layered as well, to help catch any insects that might come past. Now, while we've been sitting here, we have had grasshoppers here, we've had jumping spiders. Actually, our jumping spider friend is back. We'll wait and see if it sticks around, as well as many ants, and there's some termites that are under here as well. So this baboon spider has chosen a very good home. I love baboon spiders. I think they're incredible. One of the conserved species we get here. Now, its home is now surrounded a bit by broken down elephant dung. And what I've done this morning is I've gone and found, oh, look at the dewdrops in there. I've gone and found some elephant dung that has marula fruits in it. So Ferg and I were chatting about this when we were sitting in the tent just now, and the fact that elephants really don't digest much of what they eat. And so I'm just going to take this one away. What I found here is some dung from probably about last week, maybe 5 days ago. This is about as broken down as that marula fruit's going to get. There's a story, a myth, an old wives' tale that elephants get drunk off the marula fruits. That is in fact not true. They would have to eat something like 5 times their own body weight in fermenting marula fruit to even get slightly buzzed. It's the sugar rush that they get. Now, the other thing that I found inside of this pile of dung that I just grabbed from up there was the inside. This is the inside of the fruit, the pip, and that is where the nut would have been. Now, I want you to look very carefully. I'm going to turn it again. I want you to look very carefully at these marks here. This was dug out by a squirrel and then chewed on. So he chewed around what was left of the flesh, and then he chewed out the nuts that were inside of there. And those are the markings that we can see. Absolutely fantastic. Now, I've seen that many of you say, especially many of you in the States, that you have melanistic squirrels where you are and see them quite often, which I find very interesting. I mean, I've spent most of my life outdoors, and then also doing this for about a decade, and that melanistic squirrel was my first. And I'm wondering if maybe the gray squirrel carries, it's not as recessive as a gene as with our tree squirrel. It's just an interesting thought to think about. Now, Ferg and I are just busy checking the surroundings out here by the tent. I heard some elephants over by Djuma proper earlier, so maybe that elephant herd will come past. You never know. I haven't really seen any impala. I saw a steenbok, but he ran off when he saw me. I think everything else is sort of hiding on top of quarantine that way, and we do have more clouds that are pushing through, dropping moisture. I can actually feel just now the humidity just dropped. We've got this big front that's coming in here and moving sort of from the southwestern area up into the northern area. And as much as I love when it's not raining when we're out on drive, I do think it's very important that we keep getting this rain. When I was coming in yesterday, when I was going out the other day, you could actually see where the rain has dropped. It's green and then brown and then green and then brown. So this whole area is in desperate need of some water. All right, now Jamie is up in the Mara, and I've got something to talk about when we get back, so I think let's head on up to her so we can see how the rains are, and maybe ask her about the difference between the little and the big.
Cool.
The moment. In fact, the rain was very well behaved over the last 2 weeks. It didn't rain too much, which is pretty standard for this time of year. It's the dry season, and it's the lead up to the big rains that will come in the next few months, assuming that they do, of course. So the rainfall's been actually quite lovely. It's been non-existent, which for us worked out very well. And because first of all, to get to Malaika, I had to cross a big river, and I would not have been able to do that if it had rained. And secondly, it does make driving slightly easier. We're not concentrating on not doing accidental 180s when we're not concentrating in the mud. So the rain's been, and we're not complaining about it because it's normal for this time of year. It is absolutely normal for it to be dry. It's very dusty, but there's nothing to be concerned about. Whereas, as Noel said, Djuma absolutely needs some rain. That part of South Africa does need some rain. So we'll all be hoping that the front that's coming in will bring them some much needed moisture. I, for one, at the moment have just been enjoying driving on dry soil and not sliding all over the place. It does mean that Brent's not going to get stuck, which is irritating. But what can you do? You win some, you lose some. So we're looking for the marsh breakaways, the lion pride with the young cubs, and everybody came rushing off in this direction, and because I'm nothing if not an independent thinker, I followed them. And now I can't see anyone, and I haven't found any lions, so it might perhaps have been the wrong idea. Everybody went racing in this direction. I assumed perhaps they'd found the lions for us. I might be on the wrong side of the lugger, which is pretty much to be expected where I'm concerned. I always pick the wrong side. And then I have to go all the way around. But it does feel as though I have not seen a lion since I got back to the triangle. It doesn't just feel that way. I haven't seen a lion since I got back to the triangle. And I know they're here. I think they're just hidden in the long grass. And I promise I'm not driving past any animals. It's just quiet. Desperately for lions or indeed anything else to show you, let us rejoin Noel in the tent. I hear she's doing an amazing job, and now she wants to show you something in the microscope. In the microscope?
Thanks, Jamie. I'm also enjoying listening to your feed, Jamie. It's nice to be on drive with you, but also on drive myself, if that makes sense. Okay, so everyone, this is my first time with the microscope, so be patient. I have a blue comeledon that I wanted to show you, and what I wanted to actually show you is the parts that make it so that, there we go. Guys, we can see the pollen. Okay, sorry, I'm holding it in my fingers because it's not flat, so it's jiggling a little bit, so please excuse me. So the part that you're seeing on the right-hand side, if I am correct, is the carpel. And the carpel is made up of the stigma, style, and ovaries. Okay, and that's where a lot of the reproduction comes from, especially when you're considering being an insect and you get into where this flower is, and then on the right hand side you see all those little white bits that are there. I'm going to try and see if we can. There we go. I feel like a little kid back in science class. I loved science. There we go. Okay, now you also get, there we are, these little yellow bits here, which should be the stamens, which are made up of the anther and the filament. Okay, so you get the carpels and then the stamens, and all of that deals with the reproduction of the flower. Now I'm going to try and focus down. Look how beautiful that is. Okay, so now the petals are those dark blue ones. We're actually not going to be able to see the sepals at all, which is underneath. Ours are, I can actually try, let me just turn it, there we go. So something has come and put these sepals into a nest and made a little place to breed from there. That's why they're closed up like that. And then you can see the little bit of hairs that are on the bottom. Now, there's something that we can only see with the microscope that's teeny tiny. You see that brown thing sitting there? I have no idea what that is. I'm actually wishing that James or Steph was here because they're so good with these teeny tiny organisms. I wonder if it's a type of aphid. Aphids eat leaves. We'll have to investigate further. I'm not quite sure on that one. Now, the reason why this flower is blue the way that it is and then the yellow the way that it is to attract all the insects in so that it can pollinate. And it is extremely important. Sorry, I'm obsessed with this microscope. I just want to stare at it the whole time. It's extremely important to have those colors because insects do see in color. And especially something like a bee with the way that the eye is, it's going to pick up those prisms of color as it flies past and get stuck in there and then keep pollinating and going on. Now, after we've gone through this amazing experience, well, amazing for me, I hope it's amazing for you as well, with this beautiful blue comelidon, Scott, I believe, has found Hukumuri again, so let's head on over to him.
So we're still making our way back into the spot where we last saw him. He apparently is lying down, so that's the good news. We should be able to get you some views of him, and he's just somewhere up ahead of us. Well, this herd of buffalo is quite close to him, and I'm very interested to see if he doesn't try and snipe a youngster. Male leopards are known for slinking in and amongst large herds of buffalo. It's not something I've seen very often, so hopefully that is what will happen a little bit later on. I think we are in the wrong spot. We're not quite where we need to be.
I get to go more west from where you are because we've got Chitwa.
Copy, thanks Rex. Tax. But we are close. It'll take us a little while to get there, and the old squeaky pig, like I said a bit earlier, not nearly as easy to maneuver this vehicle as it is to maneuver our regular vehicles. Sammy Jane, you would like to know if we've got any idea of where this leopard actually comes from. And no, I don't. And to be honest, there was a bit of confusion when it came to actually giving him his name. His name is is apparently the wrong one. Hukumuri is there's a Hukumuri riverbed to the south and west of us. And initially guys thought he was a leopard that was born to a female leopard called the Hukumuri female. But he wasn't. But they gave him that name and that name is stuck. So they've just kept the wrong name basically, and we've just adopted that. So it's all a bit confusing. Alright, well, as we negotiate this big old tugboat into position with the leopard, we're going to send you all the way back up to the Maasai Mara with Jamie.
I know exactly what it's like trying to maneuver that Mahindra around, especially when you're used to the short wheelbase Landies. While Scotty does some maneuvering, we are with one of our favorite birds, quite simply for the comic effect of its call. Unfortunately now, I find myself quite sad when I stop at the black-bellied bustard because it was the wonderful Megan's favorite bird sound. And she's now moved on from our team, so it's quite sad. So there you go, Megs. That's for you. What an absolute star. I will always think of Megan and her voice in my ear when I see black-bellied bustards or when I hear their calls. The impressions that we make upon each other. We, of course, work together, live together, and socialize together. So it becomes like one big family. I was going to say one big happy family, but, you know, as families are, it is a happy family, but it comes just like a family. That's our team. I know, Bex. Rebecca reminded me that she hasn't actually disappeared. She's just gone to Cape Town to continue her studies. I know, but Cape Town's really far away. Especially now. One more call, black-bellied bastard. Come on. Since you are the only thing out here. There we go. It's the best. It's absolutely the best. Obviously, I think it goes without saying that I haven't found the lions. I don't know where they are. I can't find anything this morning. There's just nothing. Except for this one black-bellied bastard. I'm trying, I promise. Apparently I've well and truly put my foot in it. I do sincerely apologize. Megan has not died. She's fine. She's just gone to Cape Town. Rebecca has asked me to please clarify this. I'm really sorry. I'm not quite sure how I managed to give that impression. I might have been slightly more sensitive about it if that had been the case. She's in Cape Town. Okay, I'm just going to stop talking now because I'm going to dig myself deeper into a hole and send you back across to South Africa.